Did you know Super Awesome Mix has an app? Go to the Apple App Store today and download Super Awesome Mix. It's free. You could start creating and sending your own digital mixtapes in just a few clicks. Also, there's links to our Instagram account and a link where you can follow your favorite podcast. Speaking of which, welcome back to another Super Awesome Mix. My name is Matt at home alongside my co-host and co-founder of Super Awesome Mix, Samer Abu Salbi. Samer, how we doing today?
Doing real well. I really loved today's mix. We talked about doing a supergroup mix, which honestly feels right at home on the Super Awesome Mix podcast, which if you haven't left a 5-star review and you enjoy the show, please do so right now. It helps us a lot. But it's it was so much fun to put this one together, and there are a lot of really good supergroups out there, and I feel like we did a good first pass at this.
I agree. We really ran the gamut from young to old, and got me thinking about like what could be considered a supergroup. I also started thinking about the concept of like a podcast supergroup and what that would look like. If it was like,
I love that.
If Sarah Koenig, Ira Glass, and I don't know who the third person there, but if they asked either one of us, right? Like, I think I would be honored to be like, yeah, I'll be the guy in the supergroup no one's ever heard of.
Right, because I feel like a lot of them typically have that,
Yeah, there's definitely some of these where it's like, okay, oh my gosh, that guy, and then okay, hold on, let me do a quick Google search. All right, oh yeah, I think I know him.
Yeah,
okay,
he was the backup drummer for someone else in high school. Oh, yeah, all right,
that's great. Okay, no, total supergroup. Yeah.
No, but you're right. Serial producers, if you're listening, just drop us a DM at Super Awesome Mix. Let us know. We're ready. Super Awesome Murders or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do it. Okay, a little co-branding serial. Okay, just give us a call. All right, well, let's get into it. Okay, 12 super awesome super groups to get into here. And we're going to lead off with Be Yourself by Audioslave.
Yeah, whenever I picked this, Matt texted me. He was like, I have like a bingo card, and for sure, like Tom Morello was going to be on it, which is accurate in like at least once. Yeah. So Audioslave, amazing supergroup. So basically, Rage Against the Machine kind of broke up for a bit in the year 2000. Zach De La Rocha left. And the guys left over from Rage were just like, well, why don't we just invite Chris Cornell into the mix? And that's what they did. And they formed Audioslave. So I feel like maybe if I was Zach, I might have been a little hurt. It wasn't like everyone just left and did their own thing. They very much were just like, well, let's just replace him, right?
Well, and it's not like when Van Halen went from Sammy Hagar to the guy from Extreme, right? It's like, a lot of people don't know Zach De La Rocha's name necessarily, but then it's like, no, we're going to go get Chris Cornell. It's like, whoa, what? Like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, oh my gosh. So, this group comes together and they form Audioslave, and Audioslave is so, so good. And I wanted to pick a song from their long list of songs that also, could go on the Super Awesome You show. So a little co-branding here. Speaking of all of our shows, check us out. We also have What Are You Listening To with Jen? But, Be Yourself is a great message, like wrapped in an awesome rock song, of course, including Tom Morello just absolutely shredding the guitar like he does on every single track. But I think it's really cool because as he writes a lot and Chris sings a lot about different types of people out there, and whether you're this or whether you're that all you can really do is be yourself. So I love the song. I love when like a rock song like this that you might not typically like pay attention to the lyrics to has a great message. And so I wanted to open us out, open the mix strong with Audioslave.
Love it. Yeah, and you're right. Great message here, which you don't always get from a rock song. There's definitely a couple others on this mix that are just pure rock songs, not exactly sending a big message. But I also love in this one that if you're just kind of random listener coming across this song, you're listening to it early on, you're like, oh, okay, is this a Soundgarden song I've never heard of? Like, just you're just hearing Chris Cornell's voice, and then the guitar comes in, and it's like, okay, Tom Morello's definitely involved.
Yes. Yeah. They apply the Tom Morello filter, basically.
Yes, they did. I
Yeah,
mean, but it's awesome. Like, it's these
it
two
is.
great sounds, like, just coming together. And I mean, the guitar solo here is incredible. So yeah, definitely a great pick to start us off.
Awesome. All right. Well, speaking of songs with a great message, track number 2, your first pick, Big Subwoofer by Mount Westmore.
Yeah, so I included these on my best of at the end of last year when I discovered this album. So Mount Westmore, it's Snoop Dogg, E40, Too Short, and Ice Cube. And I just love the throwback sound. Each of them takes their turn, kind of, at the mic. You get so many great references in this one. Like while they're rapping, reference to the hat store lids from the mall, if you still go to the mall.
Nice.
Superfly Snuka, legendary pro wrestler. And then Jack's Hawaiian rolls. I'm not going to get into how they reference that one, but it's a pretty obscure reference to work in this context. But yeah, the whole album we got from them. I don't know if they're going to make more, but I just love this album. I could listen to every track on it. But I had to include this one because, Samer, I wondered if you wish you could go back in time with this song. And you
Oh my
talk about your
gosh.
love of bass when you were in high school. If you could have rocked this song, pulling up to a party, as they say in this one.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, that was like literally note number 2 here is love the bass on this track. This is one where my headphones were like rattling. Like it's so powerful. So they definitely deliver on the desire, or whether you have a big subwoofer or not. They deliver on it. It will be pounding. Um but yeah, oh my God. I definitely would have played this song back in high school with my car and the 212s in the back. So good.
That's all I thought about. I'm like, oh well, okay. If I'm gonna pick another song off this, it's got to be Big Subwoofer, just for Samer.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. That's a good one. I liked it.
All right, now let's go to, I don't know, maybe the most well-known, I think, song on this mix from a supergroup, and it is "White Room" by Cream.
Yeah, I definitely went with like a rock theme for a lot of my songs. Rock tends to invite a lot of super groups for whatever reason. Although, as we've just covered, there's like rap ones and other ones that are really good. Cream apparently might be considered the first super group. That's what I was reading, and so of course we had to include them here on our first mix. You got Eric Clapton from at the time the Yardbirds, Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker from the Graham Bond organization. And I mean, I hadn't really heard of either of those two groups. I've certainly heard of Cream though, in my like introduction to bands. But obviously, you got Eric Clapton on the guitar, probably the biggest name of this group. And I love this song. We've covered it before. It's kind of funny, they talk about how they never would have imagined that this song would have become as popular as it was because they're literally just describing like a room, as they say. It's a song just about a room. Um, because the opening lyrics literally are just opening up describing a room as if you're reading reading like a story about someone walking to a room. Where is it located? Okay, cool, it's there, it's got white walls, got it. But yeah, I had to include Cream in a rock supergroup mix, and absolutely love this song. They have a lot of amazing tracks, and as we've covered before, Eric Clapton on guitar is also widely considered one of the best guitarists of all time. So have to talk about him.
I think Jack Bruce's brother was a realtor, and they were just trying to help him out, by just kind of like, hey, all right, you got to sell this townhome. All right, let me write you a song real quick and see if just have this playing at the open house. You get the
Right.
cookies fresh out of the oven, and we'll play this song describing the room, and this thing will be off your hands in 3 days. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's
right.
got
This is a really it's an interesting song. Everybody knows it. It's such a cool rock song, but you're right. Within this room, like this person seems to be struggling a little bit too, which is also something that kind of gets overshadowed by the fact that it's sort of this legendary rock song. Is you don't necessarily dig into the lyrics and kind of get any meaning from it because everyone just knows it. But yeah, it's interesting because this is definitely a situation where maybe the super group overshadows the other groups that these guys have been in.
Yes,
And we could
totally.
probably go down the line and try to see like how often has that happened where the supergroup outdoes, and that maybe that's another mix down the line, right? But I
Right,
just thought
right.
that was interesting with this one because I'm like, I'm definitely more familiar with the supergroup than I am with any of the individual projects.
Right, yeah, like, ask me to name a Yardbird song. I'm not gonna get very far.
Right.
Apologies to Yardbird fans out there. I'm sure it's great. Go I'm not saying anything against them.
Well, I'm going to be on the Yardbirds podcast next week and talking about them.
All right. Well,
So, I mean, I'm
so
offended
sorry.
too, but anyway, all right, just keep going. Just keep going.
All right, all right. Yeah, I don't want to go down the drain on this one, which is track number 4, Down the Drain by Chickenfoot.
Great segue. Great segue there. All right, let's talk about Chickenfoot. Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, Joe Satriani, and Chad Smith. Okay, so Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, old friends from Van Halen, of course. Michael Anthony is like the other guy in Van Halen.
Right.
But like you hear people talk about Michael Anthony and they're like, oh, musically, he's the best one. Like they talk about him just being brilliant, but he just gets overshadowed by the Van Halen brothers and then either David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar. So kind of cool for Sammy Hagar to bring him along for this project. Joe Satriani is just like this unbelievable guitarist, and he just kind of jumps in whenever someone needs a guitarist. Like it seems like Chickenfoot's been his longest standing kind of band. Otherwise, it's just like, hey, we need someone who's amazing at guitar, and they bring in Joe Satriani. And then Chad Smith, drummer from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So, I mean, first of all, kind of an eclectic group to bring together, but
Yes.
they just do just straight rock music, right? Like Sammy Hagar is just the classic front man and Satriani with the guitar. And then, I mean, it all just comes together. And so like this song, I don't think there's a real deep meaning behind it or anything. And their music doesn't have a ton of deep meanings behind it when you listen to it. But, you know, if you like just great rock music, these guys are pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like instantly in love with this one whenever it opened. I was not familiar with the band name. Hit play and was like, oh, well done, Matt. I love this. Because it just rocks. Like it rocks so hard. It's great. And you're right. It is a very eclectic group, but my goodness, it works really well together. This was really exciting to listen to.
Yeah, and they're technically still together. I think they've put out 2 albums and there's still maybe an opportunity for more. So, yeah, definitely
Nice.
a band worth getting into if you like just straight rock music. All right, so let's go to track 5. You've got Elephants by Them Crooked Vultures.
Yeah, so this was the other bingo slot that Matt had mentioned in his text message. It's going to include Dave Grohl and Them Crooked Vultures. Yes, so we've covered them before. So this is Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age. They just released a new album, which is so good. It's definitely going to make it an appearance on a new music mix again for me. Dave Grohl on the drums, obviously from Foo Fighters and Nirvana. And then, a little guy named John Paul Jones from from a group called Led Zeppelin, which to me of like I can absolutely see Dave Grohl and Josh Homme being friends and knowing one another. Like that is like, well, yeah, of course they are, but then to throw John Paul Jones in, I was like, okay, all right, that's a cool get, like that's pretty awesome. And Dave has mentioned in interviews that like this is the only way you're going to get him to play drums for you, like in a group, is that you've got to have someone as good as Josh Homme and John Paul Jones as your bandmates. So the bar is pretty high to get Dave Grohl to play drums for you. You have to be like at the top of your game, and then he will agree to play the drums. So it's great.
I like that they're not only friends with John Paul Jones, but they got him to like play. It's not like we're dragging him out of retirement or something like that. It's just like,
right.
Hey man, you want to do a project? Like not just a couple tracks. Like we're doing a whole album.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like that really is a big get. But I love this song. I think, I've covered other ones on there. This one is really interesting because I think you can kind of hear the influences of like these 3 artists coming together in this one track. And I think that that's something really interesting. It's like if you know them individually, outside of the supergroup, and then you hear them all come together. It really is kind of cool to see what they produce together, because they do bring their own like history and legacy to the same room, and then all of a sudden, it can produce some really awesome music. And I think this one at like 7 minutes long is a great example of, you know, all the influences of these three guys coming together and how it works together. It's pretty awesome.
And it's a nearly 2 minute intro, which was also really
Right.
cool into the song.
Yeah.
So there's all this build up and the sound just sounds great. But yeah, you're right. I think that's the challenge within a supergroup, because obviously everybody gets a turn in some way, shape, or
Hmm.
form. Like you see a lot of the songs, and the songs usually have everybody's name written on them, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see, yeah, it all come together in these different ways. But here, with three very well known groups apart from them, it's cool to see that all come together.
Hey, Dr. Z here. I'd love you to tune in to our podcast, Pickin' and Puttin', where it's Dr. Z along with Liberty Bill, and we discuss pertinent sports topics. We have a song that relates to those. We discuss that. We have trivia. We also have the question of the week besides our trivia. We'd love you to tune in. We have fun with it. We think you'd enjoy seeing us too. Tune in, be there. Doc Z, see ya. Mean it.
All right. Track number 6. Another song that I really enjoyed that I wasn't familiar with, but this is Romance by Wild Flag.
Okay, so we're gonna bring in an all female supergroup here. Okay, so this is Carrie Brownstein, Mary Timony, Rebecca Cole, and Janet Weiss. The bands are Slater Kinney, Helium, and the Minders. Okay, so probably some bands you may not be top of mind. Carrie Brownstein's definitely kind of the lead name here,
Hmm.
just because Slater Kinney, I think, is a little bit more popular in the music world. And then, of course, if you're familiar with the TV show Portlandia, she starred on that with Fred Armisen. Okay, here's what I love about this song in particular, and they've got some really cool rock music out there. But this one reminded me of something from like a 50s surf movie, right? Like that kind of feel with the
Yeah.
drums and even the vocals, but there's a little bit of distorted audio, there's a little bit of an edge to it with the guitar. And so it's just this like cool, updated kind of punk sound to this throwback song. I mean, if you told me this was like a cover of something, I'd almost believe you, like that it was written actually like 70 years ago. But it's not. It's just really, really well done and kind of an updated version of it. But everything from the vocals and, like I said, the drums and guitar here, it all just gave me that feel.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. I thought it was such a good song. Like I've been looking for exactly this type of energy lately in a song, and this one just is perfect. Like it's this great like indie rock punkish sound, but it's not too heavy on the punk. Like I love all the influences that, yeah, again, that they bring to this. But this was such a good track. I was super excited to find this one. I'm gonna dive into more of their album.
Yeah, and this is definitely on the younger end of supergroups, so we've got an
Hmm.
opportunity to maybe keep them together for a while. All right, track 7, we've got "Passive" by A Perfect Circle.
So this one is definitely top of mind for like you've got the one key member and then and then other people. Um because and I don't mean that with disrespect, but in terms of just like name power, because you've got like the guitarist Billy Howardell, who is like a former guitar tech for Nine Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins, Fishbone, super impressive. Like those are incredible bands. And you've got like the Primus drummer Tim Alexander, who eventually was replaced by Josh Freese, also like some notable names. But then you've got, the vocalist, Maynard James Keenan, who's most famously known for Tool, and like also just has a very unique voice and sound. And I think if you were to tell me like whose influence was the largest on how Perfect Circle sounds, I would argue it might be his. Love Perfect Circle. We've definitely covered them before. I think even in episode 1, I believe they were on my Desert Island mix. I got to go back and look at that because it's been a minute. But I'm pretty sure I had a Perfect Circle on there because I love them so much. Um, they're like Tool light, but not that much lighter. Like this isn't like a Coke Zero situation. This was like whenever they would like half the amount of calories in Coca-Cola. They wouldn't bring you to zero, but it was like a reduction. So, if you're not into like metal, this still might not be your bag. But yeah, I think, what a great little group. And I think the way it formed is really interesting because like Maynard basically was like, oh, I really like how you sound. Let me bring my voice to you, and then like basically they formed that way, and he brought his like talent and everything. And they've had a lot of success. They've released a number of albums and it's been really good, but definitely a side gig for Maynard.
Yeah, this falls in that category of as I, you know, kind of dove more into supergroups putting this mix together. Some supergroups do the everybody gets a turn type thing when they're putting the song together, and others do the we're just going to have this one person. So, like, if you don't know a perfect circle, but you just hear this song, you're right. Maynard James Keenan like just comes through, and you might be like, "Is this a Tool song?" like,
Right,
but it just
exactly.
sounds different enough to where it's like, well, they're doing something different here. So it's all the musical stuff, but when you have such a strong vocalist, it's almost like with Audio Slave, you just hear Chris Cornell and it's like, all right, this is a Chris Cornell song, right? But then obviously
Right.
Tom Morello has his own distinct sound when he comes into play. But yeah, when the vocalist is so strong, it can really overshadow things, especially in a super group where, the other guys aren't as well known.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like the voice carries a lot, and that's often the first and kind of only thing we take away from a song. So, which is actually a really good segue to the next pick. Which this group I had not heard of, but it made my heart so happy. The song is "Bruised," and the group is the Bends.
Yeah, so three guys named Ben. Okay, Ben Folds, Ben Queller, and Ben Lee. And just like I said in the last song, if the vocalist is strong, you maybe just think it's their song. And here it's like you hear Ben Folds and you hear piano, and it's like, all right, well, this is just a Ben Folds song or Ben Folds 5, and it's like, no, he's got these two other awesome guys with him. And so it's really kind of a cool little album that they put together because now they all have similar styles, right? And Ben Folds
Yes.
is probably the best. It was definitely the best known of the three of them. And in my mind, I think Ben Queller is probably second, but I'm from Texas,
Hmm.
so maybe I've just gotten more of Ben Queller in my life than other people. And then Ben Lee's on there as well. So they have similar styles. So I think meshing it works really well. Like it's not as disparate when you see this list and their individual projects as it is with some of the other super groups. But this is such a, I don't know, it's just a nice song. like,
It is.
and it's the message is really just very sweet. Like love just leaves you bruised. It's never finished, right? Like people talk about kind of gutting, heart wrench, but in this case, it's like it's not gutting. It's like you're just a little beat up, and so it's a great message. And the music they've done together, I think they've done one full album, kind of falls in the same vein. And if you're familiar with any of their works, you'll see it lines up really well.
Yeah, I love the nature of how this group came together. It was literally like a fan service because Queller had written, well, actually, our fans noticed that we all had the same first name and had said for a long time, wouldn't it be great if we all played together? So we thought maybe we should do that. And I just think like there's so much like fun and innocence in that, of like to your point, like they do kind of have similar sounding music, and one's not in like hard rock and the other's not in rap and whatever. They produce very similar kind of vibes. And so for their fans to kind of notice that and want that from them and for them to just be like, yeah, okay, let's do it. I think it's really fun and playful, like there's not as much ego here at play where, you've got like the one superstar, and then he drags a bunch of people in and they get the benefit. It's like, no, they've all got nice little music careers for themselves. And then they decided to do something fun that the fans love. So I love that. And I think that comes through in the song itself too. It is a very nice song.
Yeah, there's a low chance of a Sex in the City scenario happening here where Ben
Right.
Queller is just like, I'm not working with that guy anymore. It's like, nah, come on. Come on. Just,
Yeah.
we'll record your vocals in a different studio, okay? And then we'll let the producers put it together. All right. Track 9. So speaking of different styles coming together, we've got Living on the 110 by Prophets of Rage.
Yeah, I just mentioned like this isn't, a group of this past group wasn't like rock and rap coming together. And here we have rock and rap coming together, which I really love because it works so well. I love when genres like mash up like this. So Prophets of Rage is going to sound familiar to you because of Rage Against the Machine. I feel like Tom Morello has just a lot of anger. Maybe maybe you should talk to someone about that. But this is a rap rock supergroup. It was formed in 2016. It was actually kind of formed in reaction to the election of Donald Trump, which is interesting. So it's like they were pissed, and here's Prophets of Rage as a result. So you've got the vocalist Tim Comerford, backup vocalist, and then guitarist Tom Morello, drummer Brad Wilk, and then you got Public Enemy's Chuck D, DJ Lord, and then Cypress Hill's Be Real. And I think Cypress Hill, Be Real has like such a unique voice that's also one that really stands out on this track when he does, whenever he's singing rap. And so it's pretty awesome. It's a great protest rock song. Here, they're singing about people who are living under the 110, which is a freeway in Los Angeles. And they're kind of talking about the juxtaposition of how like this highway carries a lot of very wealthy cars, but then there's literally people living underneath it. And so very classic Rage Against the Machine, talking about anti-capitalistic and inequality and all these types of things. So it's a really cool mashup. I think what I like the most about it really is just the fact that it's different genres coming together to kind of tackle the same kind of issue. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I thought that's always really cool when you see that happen, and this song's really well done. I think in that regard, it's definitely more, if you look at the two Tom Morello entries on this mix, right? And he's actually got, I think, another supergroup on top of that. But he, the first one, like I said, Chris Cornell's voice kind of dominates it. This one is going to have more of a Rage Against the Machine feel to it than Audio Slave does. So here you see maybe a little bit more of his influence, or maybe just, maybe it's the messaging. But in any case, if you're a Rage Against the Machine fan, you're probably going to line up with Prophets of Rage pretty well. The other thought I had was, okay, this song's from 2017. I really hope this isn't something where in 10 years we look back on the song and we're like, yeah, that hasn't gotten any better. Because when they talk about the homeless situation, and you and I joked about that when we look at like songs from the 70s, where it's like, I guess we solved that problem. I really, really hope between now and like 2037, we've got a better solution in place for the homeless.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hopefully this is not one that we're just like, oh my God, this is still applicable today. All right, track number 10. Very different vibe shift from what I was just listening to. I almost had to pause and like just take a minute because I was riding this like rock high, and then here comes Highwayman by Highwayman, which is a pretty. It's like a how about you talk about it?
Yeah, how about I talk about it? Well, I mean, call back to an earlier band. You're going to get the bends going from one of these songs to the other, right? The scuba term, right? Just
exactly.
Yeah, very different entry. This song's from 1985. Okay, so the Highwaymen, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and Chris Christopherson, which from like a super group standpoint, like talk about getting the four biggest names in a genre, right? Like,
yes,
this may have come the closest to doing that and putting it together. Maybe the greatest country supergroup of all time, but I'd probably have to do a little bit more research. I feel like naming the greatest supergroup might be a great one for the Battle podcast that we are working on and getting ready to release later this year. So look for that. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting mix. This is definitely a little bit more conventional because it's like we're going to write a country song. Each of us is going to sing one verse, right? Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings have passed away, so there's no chance of any new music from the Highwaymen. But they put together a couple of albums prior to breaking up. They were together from 85 to 95. And a Highwayman, in case you're wondering, it's a reference to kind of a stick-up artist, if you will, as people were going down the highway more in like Western times. So, could be caught on a horse. This was someone who would rob people as they were going along the highway. And in this song, each of them kind of tells their story of being a highwayman and then how there will be more after them. So really kind of a, kind of an interesting little throwback tune, a little bit more conventional country. But yeah, definitely a hard shift from Prophets of Rage.
I know. I had to like just take a minute because I was like, okay, I just listened to like a song talking about real issues in the United States, and then here's this one talking about Boulder, Colorado, and I don't know what being buried in concrete, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel as applicable maybe to today. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
I mean,
I
maybe in
wasn't
your
reading it
world,
enough.
maybe in your world.
Yeah, my big city life up here in New York, I just don't understand it. But
Keep
but
living in
you're
that
right.
bubble. Keep living in that bubble, Samer. Okay.
um, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, unbelievable voices. And so listening to them sing is incredible. And I also felt it was like kind of a melancholy song. Like I think that was the other thing that really got me coming from the last one. Is this one does just tend to kind of be like four kind of sad stories being told, in a way, but it was good. Yeah, absolutely would listen to a battle mix of who's the best supergroup out there.
Yeah, I think that could get very interesting because you have different genres.
Hmm.
Tom Morello would probably have his own division, though. His own
Probably.
bracket in the mix. So we'll see if we can put that one together. All right, your last pick. It is "Satanist" by Boy Genius.
Yes, another all-female supergroup, and this one is also pretty new. So it's an indie rock supergroup. You've got Julian Baker, Phoebe Bridgers, and Lucy Dacus. And they just released an album not too long ago. I absolutely love it. I have been listening to it a number of times. Um, but I just wanted to kind of showcase that they have like such a wide range in that album because they've got some softer songs, and then this one is a little bit on the harder side. They can definitely bring a lot of energy, and I love kind of the topic here. Like, will you be a Satanist with me? Mortgage off your soul to buy your dream, and then a vacation home in Florida, which I also love that. I love the idea of, of like that's where they're going to end up in Florida. A little dig at a state that we all love to pick on. So I think it's great. Yeah, like they have such a wide range, the three of them, and have all had really impressive independent careers as singer songwriters. So coming together, I think is interesting in that regard because these aren't people who typically play in a band, and then all of a sudden they are in a band. So I think that's like another cool dynamic that you could see, where people suddenly aren't the one and only. So yeah, Boy Genius, they're awesome if you haven't listened to their album.
Yeah, and I can appreciate the kind of difference of like these are just solo artists kind of coming together and having to work together. And I wonder what kind of challenge that is versus the ones who are normally in a band and are used to kind of
Hmm.
maybe blending in a little bit more. But you're right. Like I thought the lyrics here were really well done. Not only do they talk about being a Satanist, but it's also like, what is it, being a nihilist, and then maybe being a communist or something like that. They just kind of take these words with negative connotations and then sort of speak about them a little more. And it's, I don't know. I thought it was just really well done. But yeah, it also just sounds great, and love the fact that we've got some younger supergroups on here that we'll hear more from.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, track number 12. This one would be a contender. I think this battle mix would go far. The Traveling Wilburys is the band, and the song is the Wilbury Twist.
Yeah, okay. Traveling Wilburys. Listen to this lineup: Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty. Okay,
I mean, incredible.
it's ridiculous, right? And they came together. They made, I mean, really like a double album and then a few singles after that. And all the songs are just so well written. Like this is one I've probably listened to every song these guys have ever made, just over and over again. I picked this one just because I thought for finishing off a mix like this, I wanted something high energy, and this is just a fun song and just kind of ridiculous. Like I could see them writing this together and just trying to make each other laugh, and so I just love the thought of that as they're putting this song together, just having so much fun with it. um they made these albums and then it was kind of hard to find the actual albums. Funny story, I actually bought like the double CD of their music off of it was an
Wow.
early eBay purchase for me. I bought it from like someone in Ukraine. And
That's
it took
awesome.
like 7 weeks to get here to where I had forgotten I'd ordered it. And then I get a
Yeah.
notice at like whatever crappy apartment I was living in at that point that like I have a pickup at the post office. I'm like, what could this be? And then I go and pick it up, and it's covered in like, these stickers with like, Russian letters on them. And I'm like, what is this? Like, of course I just
Right.
open it because it's a much more innocent time there. I'm not thinking someone is trying to hurt me. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the Traveling Wilburys CD that I ordered. So,
That's amazing.
yeah. So then I just immediately played it and then just kept playing it because I was like, this is unreal. I could listen to all these songs over and over again. But the last song on that CD and the last song in this mix is Wilbury Twist.
Yeah, I actually had not heard of them before, so this was like my first introduction to it. And this song in particular is so fun. It's like a twist and shout song, like a kind of a good dance floor song. And you can definitely tell they're having a lot of fun with it. But then once I looked up like who the Wilburys were, I was like, holy moly, what a lineup. Like and this one, I think, yeah, it'd be tough to kind of argue who brought the most here because, like, my goodness, each of them, Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Roy Orbison, like those three names alone, it's just like, wow. Of course, you got a Beatle there with George Harrison. Yes, amazing group, really fun song. I enjoyed this one to round out the mix for sure.
All right, well, there you have it. A Supergroup, super awesome mix for your collection. You can follow us on Instagram at Super Awesome Mix. And of course, we're not done. The supergroup that is Matt and Samer, we're going to keep going. Okay. We're not breaking up anytime soon. So we'll get to work on our next mix. And for Samer, this is Matt. We'll see you next time. Super Awesome Mix is brought to you by DLM. Make shopping easy with DLM, the one-stop shop for all your casual clothing needs. Shop DLMsupplyco.com and enter the promo code AWESOME at checkout to save 15% off your first purchase. That's DLMsupplyco.com.